So in this video, I'm going to talk about 10 money mistakes that young people tend to make that if they just avoided, they would have a ton more cash. Some of this is coming from personal experience, so don't get it into your head that I'm immune to bad financial decisions. I promise I've had my fair share of them, but I'm going to relay my experiences to you so that hopefully you can save some money. If you get value from videos like this one, then please consider going over to my channel and clicking the subscribe button so that this video gets pushed out to more people. I'm also playing around with the idea of doing some sort of small giveaway once I reach 1,000 subscribers, so more information on that in the future, but for now, let's get on with the content. The first money mistake that I see people making is thinking that they don't need to work on their credit score. Having a good credit score becomes more and more important as you get older and start to make some larger purchases, so starting to build this up whenever you're young can go a long way. If you go to a bank or some lending institution trying to get a home loan and your credit score is in the gutter, it doesn't matter how many years that you can show stable income or how much money you're willing to put down, your interest rate and your payment is going to be higher than somebody that has a perfect credit score. As you might imagine, having a higher interest rate on something like a home purchase where it's so high in nominal value means that it could cost you thousands of dollars worth of interest over a 15 or 30 year time frame. You can start building your credit fairly easily just by getting a credit card as soon as you're able to, and if you have to, you can start with a secured card, but make sure that you put some everyday expenses on it each month and pay it off in full before the end of the month. I've discussed the importance of building a credit score in further detail in a video that I made previously, so I'm going to put the link to that right up here for you to watch after you finish this video. Since building your credit score is something that you should develop a habit for, the next money mistake that I want to talk about is also habitual, and that is not paying yourself first. This is a timeless piece of advice, and it comes up in dozens of personal finance books as a core principle of building wealth. You have to make the decision that at least 10% of the money that you bring home is yours to keep. What I mean by that is that you don't just try to save money by spending less and then hoping that you have money left over at the end of the month, but rather you decide how much you're going to save and you allow yourself to spend the difference after saving. Doing this early in life when you first start making some real money will make it infinitely easier to carry the habit on with you because you've already developed it. Something that I think goes hand in hand with this, so I'm going to lump it in here with the not paying yourself first, is not having an emergency fund. This should be the first pile of cash that you save up, and you should shoot to have about 6 to 12 months of expenses depending on your comfortability level. Having this stockpile of cash for unexpected expenses can really save you from going into debt whenever a medical issue comes up, or you have to put new tires on your car, or really anything else that comes up that people don't really factor into their monthly budget. The next money mistake that people make is delaying investing, and this is something that can cost you thousands and thousands of dollars if you put off investing just for a short period of time like 5 or 10 years. We all know that compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world, and starting 10 years earlier to invest for your retirement could be the difference of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Consider a situation where somebody starts investing $250 a month at the age of 20, and let's assume that they're getting about an 8% average annual return. If they did this all the way up until their 65th birthday for a span of 45 years, then they would wind up with about $1.2 million. But if that person waited just 10 more years until they were 30 years old to start investing that $250 a month, at the end of that 35-year period, they would have only $539,000. That's less than half of what they would get if they started just 10 years earlier. Just for comparison purposes, if that same person wanted to start 10 years later at the age of 30 and still get $1.2 million, they would have to more than double their monthly contribution from $250 up to $561, contributing over $100,000 more to the account in that shortened time frame. Even if you can only invest a little bit right now, starting early and building that habit will go a long way for the future. Just increase your investment as you're able to and watch it grow over a long period of time. The next money mistake that I want to talk about is renting or buying a much nicer house than you can actually afford. This one seems like it should be self-explanatory, but especially in today's social media driven age, I wanted to make it a point to let you know that you don't need some sort of luxurious high-rise apartment in order to be happy, no matter how many 19-year-old day traders you see online with them. Housing is already the biggest average expense we have in our lives, so overspending on it is going to make it very difficult to get ahead with your other investments and saving. Yes, a home can be considered to be a little bit of a piggy bank for somebody that has trouble saving and investing their money, but that doesn't mean that you should spend 30% of your monthly income on a mortgage payment. And it's even worse if you're renting and spending that much on your monthly payment, because you're not building any equity at all if you're renting. I'm not saying that you shouldn't rent, I'm just saying that that 30% of your monthly income whenever you're not building any equity is a lot to spend on a home. Cutting costs on your housing expense is a great way to save money because percentage-wise, you'll save the most amount of money by reducing your biggest average monthly expense rather than doing something like cutting out your daily coffee. So drive on down to Starbucks and grab yourself a coffee. You've got my permission. This next one is one of the biggest money mistakes that I see people making in their 20s because once they get their first big boy job, they think that they need a brand new car. Obviously, this is pretty similar to the previous point, except it's a lot worse because a car is a depreciating asset in almost all cases. Spending too much money on a car makes absolutely no sense other than for trying to prove to people that you can afford the car. First off, buying a brand new car will pretty much instantly reduce your net worth, even if you buy the car in cash and outright, because it loses a good chunk of its value as soon as you drive it off the lot. Transportation is the second biggest monthly expense for us, and when you consider that you not only have to pay for the car, but you have to pay for taxes, insurance, gasoline, and maintenance, it just really starts to add up. Even if you get a ton of joy out of driving some sort of super fancy car, after a couple of months of driving it, it goes back to being just a car that gets you from point A to point B. And if there's one thing I know for certain, it's that nobody cares what you drive as much as you do. The next money mistake that people make in their 20s is investing in things that they don't understand. And this one can get you in a ton of trouble for a variety of different reasons. One thing I really saw blow up during the pandemic was people trading stocks and crypto and telling their followers to make the same investment choices as them, just in hopes that it makes their own trade more profitable. If you blindly follow somebody online and just click buttons when they tell you to, you could end up making a ton of mistakes. You might see something unexpected happen with the stock and then you panic and sell for a loss, or worse, you could get stuck in some sort of huge liquidity crisis with that stock whenever there's nobody there to buy the shares that you want to sell. If you're unfamiliar, you would lose a lot more money in that scenario. You need to do research and understand what you're investing in, and you should have some sort of investment thesis behind why you're buying that stock or investment. This way, whenever something unexpected happens, you know the reason that you bought it and you don't freak out and sell for a loss. As far as I can tell, investing in things you don't understand is the same as gambling, and you can get lucky or you can get really unlucky. Next on the list of money mistakes here are payday loans and any other sort of high interest rate, borderline predatory loan system. These are super dangerous and should be avoided at all costs. I'm sure you've seen the signs on the side of the road that say cash now or payday loans or something like that, of people trying to entice others to utilize these short-term loans that essentially borrow tomorrow's money to use today. What people don't always understand is that these loans have you paying an unholy amount of interest in the meantime. If for some reason you take one of these loans that's charging you a zillion% interest and you happen to not pay the loan back in time, you'll end up paying way more than you had estimated in the first place. You know how people say don't ever smoke your first cigarette because then you can't get addicted? I think the same thing applies to these payday loans. You should never mess with them because it's too dangerous and too costly if they don't work out exactly how you think they will. So this next point kind of puts a little ribbon around most of the general ideas in this video, but to put it simply, don't spend money that you don't have just to look like you do have it. By all means, if you can afford something and it brings you a lot of happiness to have it, you can do what you want. But I don't see any reason to spend thousands of dollars on a handbag or hundreds of dollars on a t-shirt just because there's a couple of specific words printed on them, especially if you're only buying those things to impress people. The next money mistake that people make is emotional spending. Now, I debated on even including this one, but I think it's relevant here, so I wanted to just briefly mention it. If somebody has a good explanation for this point, then please let me know in the comments. I'm happy to hear other points of view. Now, I'm sure you've heard of retail therapy, and I think that's an odd concept to even think about, and maybe that's because I've never been a big shopper. To me, buying things that you don't actually need just to give yourself a little bit of a pick-me-up seems like a dangerous path to be on. I feel like if it's something that you don't actually need, you would end up just regretting spending the money on it, even if it's something that did make you a little happy whenever you first bought it. I don't want to speak too heavily on this topic, but I'll just say that I think a lot of these types of purchases are pretty frivolous and a little bit of a waste of money. And I also think that most people would be better off finding some other sort of outlet when they're feeling down. Now, the most important point that I want to make in this video is the importance of spending your time and money on things that are going to improve yourself. I don't think a lot of people really grasp the value of investing in yourself. Now, this could be spending money on a gym membership to stay in shape, or it could be spending your time and money on an online course to pick up some new skills. But investing in yourself can arguably produce some of the greatest return on investment that you will ever find. Curiosity to learn new things is an actual superpower. Just think of this like compounding your mental ability over the next 40 years. Learning one new thing per day, even if it's just a 1% improvement on your knowledge, will pay huge dividends throughout your life. This might lead you to start some successful business, or it might help you figure out a way to solve problems for people in a new way, or anything. People that don't waste time playing video games or watching TV and strive to have a goal in mind at all times and a plan to get there, that's somebody that I would bet on any day. And to that point, just remember today's quote of the day. Today I will do what others won't, so that tomorrow I can do what others can't. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click the subscribe button and share this video with your friends. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.